ESPN's Adam Schefter believes that the Bears are going to get an unbelievable offer for the number one overall pick. We're going to talk about that, what that could look like, the expectations around that. We're also going to talk about Jaylon Johnson ready to sign a contract extension with the Chicago Bears. And then lastly, we're going to look at Anthony Walker as a chance free agent for the Chicago Bears to sign and Wisconsin defensive lineman Keeanu Benton. We're going to get to all that and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bears Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bears news and content.
What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host here, Haize. You can follow me right off the top at CEO Haize on every social media platform. Let's go ahead and jump into it. So yesterday, Adam Schefter actually combated another article that said that maybe the Bears weren't going to get as much as they thought for the number one overall pick. And Adam Schefter blew it out the water, saying that the Bears could get an unbelievable pick that sets them up for seasons to come. And this is something that I've actually been talking about. First, I do want to read the quote from him directly. He says this: "I can just tell you right now that the Bears are going to have the opportunity to listen to some unbelievable offers for the number one pick. And they're going to have the chance to parlay that number one pick that came as a benefit from the Houston Texans playing a game that they never should have won into a bevy of future picks that can set up the franchise for years to come." And this is something that, if you guys have been watching my daily episodes since I've been covering the NFL draft and talking about some of the trades that the Bears could do for that number one overall pick, is that the Bears could set themselves up nicely now, right, to not move too far down the draft, get some solid and really good players after a free agency where they're going to have the most money in the NFL, that they can also get future picks. And the reason why that's important is that if the Bears do build a really good team this season, a team that is a playoff team, and their own first round pick becomes lower in that first round, the picks that you can get from other teams, if you forecast it correctly and do some good predictions and analysis on where those teams could sit, you could set yourself up in the next upcoming seasons to have multiple draft picks. And that's one thing that Ryan Poles has excelled at in his first draft, turning what he came into almost doubling the amount of picks that he had coming into last draft. And you look at this draft, what he can do already, having, I think, 8 or 9 picks in this NFL draft, and the number one overall pick, he can get a few more picks in this draft, but really kind of focus in future forecasting for the Chicago Bears, setting up the franchise to have a nice amount of assets in the upcoming years, and especially in years where maybe they don't have the free agency capital that they have this year. So this could be huge. And I've said it before, this offseason, the free agency and NFL draft is important for the Bears' next 3 to 5 years. It really can have an effect on your franchise, what you do in this draft for that amount of time. And you have to get this right. What Ryan Poles needs to do in this draft is just get it right. That's it. It's just get it right. And that sounds a lot easier than what it actually is. But when it boils down to it, Ryan Poles has to, I've said this before, this is one of the biggest decisions of his career, coming in only his second offseason leading the Chicago Bears. And this is going to impact the next handful of years for him and the Bears franchise. So whatever he does, whatever ends up coming from this number one overall pick and the free agency, this is going to be huge for his future, the Bears' future, and the franchise as a whole. Justin Fields, the players, everything. So while it's easy, and it's easy for me and for us to speculate on, you should do this, you should do that, it's not as easy when it comes down to it, and all the things that go into what you need to do in this offseason and with this number one overall pick. I believe Ryan Poles is up to the test. I have faith in him. I can't wait to see what we do. It's already been an exciting offseason just around the speculation of what can happen. Now imagine what it's going to look like once we start signing and drafting players. Now, usually in the NFL, you're not going to start seeing trades until about March. So we have still a nice amount of time until we maybe see what that picture starts looking like for the Chicago Bears, but it's coming. And I can't wait. I'm going to be covering it here, right here on Chicago Bears Central. All right, moving into the next topic today, we're going to talk about Jaylon Johnson. And he talked about this in regards to a contract extension. That's definitely my goal. That's what I've always wanted to do, is get my second contract after my third season with the Bears. There's definitely been some talks, but I feel like it will heat up in due time after the free agency wave, the draft, and things like that. We'll just see where it goes. Seems like he's pretty confident in it, and even him having the mindset of, yeah, it's probably not going to come until after free agency and after the draft, which makes sense, right? To negotiate at that time. I do think Jaylon Johnson, especially with the way that he played last season, has shown that he does deserve another contract with the Chicago Bears. But as we know, when it comes to Ryan Poles, it's all about finding that right number, right? It's all about finding the number that works for the team in future, in present, and the player as well. And as long as both sides are motivated to get that deal done and are both being fair in the negotiation trades, taking both sides into account, I think this is going to be one of the most uneventful contract extensions. You just look at it. I think he's shown that he deserves that deal, and I think he's going to get it. And, you know, I like the way that he plays. I like what he brings to this team. I like the talent. Now, that's not to say that maybe eventually we don't need a better number one, but I do think that when it comes down to it, he deserves a contract extension with the Bears. So I'm gonna throw it to you guys. Question of the day: Jaylon Johnson, do you think he's going to get a contract extension with the Chicago Bears? Do you think he deserves it? Do you think we need to do a wait and see approach? Maybe wait over the season to see if he keeps up his play. What do you guys think when it comes to Jaylon Johnson and his long-term contract here with the Chicago Bears? Let me know what you guys think on that one down below. Now, this was an article, I believe this came from NBC, and I want to talk about this one. Is the prospect of bringing Anthony Walker back to the Chicago Bears. Now, there's a couple of things. A, he has history with the Chicago Bears franchise. B, Ryan Poles actually was pursuing Anthony Walker last season before he ended up signing Nicholas Morrow, and he actually got Morrow he saved about $1.5 million signing Morrow instead of Anthony Walker. Now, yes, Walker only played 3 games last season. He missed a lot of games last season, but we can say the same thing about Morrow. He was coming off injury when the Bears signed him, and we saw he made a decent, not a huge impact, but a decent impact for the Chicago Bears. So I know with Bears fans and a lot of us, once we hear that somebody has injury concerns, we're like, oh no, let's stay away. But again, stable starter, not the best as far as like anything you want to build your defense around. But when you look at what you can get him for, especially with the injury concerns, and keep in mind, other than last season, prior to that, the previous 3 seasons, he played 824 snaps, 811 snaps, 715 snaps. So it's apparent that when he's healthy, he can make an impact. And we know the Bears need and should be looking to improve that front 7 considerably. But Anthony Walker could be a veteran, depending on what else that you bring in, that you could come in and he could just play a solid role for this team. I'm not saying that he's going to be amazing, but when you look at the history he also has with the Indianapolis Colts, which could again be another hook to come to this team and another avenue in which the coaches on this team know how to get the best out of Anthony Walker. So I'm looking at him. I think he can definitely be a cheaper signing and one that could pay off. It's not going to be any long-term money. It's going to be another one of those prove-it deals that Ryan Poles has shown a propensity to give out to players. But I kind of like the concept. Now, I hope that we improve that linebacker core overall. And so, I think we need to look other places first. But if we do end up drafting a young linebacker, we already have Jack Sanborn. What you do with Morrow, Anthony Walker could be somebody that can come in, play a solid role for us if healthy, that's low risk. And then you can give him that prove-it deal and then maybe work something out more longer term when it comes down to it. So again, another interesting prospect, not anything that I think the Bears need or a player that the Bears need to go out necessarily and try to get on day one of free agency or anything like that. It's more of a piece, complementary piece that you go after you do other things in your defense and improve the roster in other places. So again, something that I think is decent to look at in my opinion. Like I said, last year with the Cleveland Browns, he didn't really do much, but he's a fairly young, 27 years old, so not too high up there. There's complete reason to believe that he's going to be able to bounce back from injury. So, again, somebody who has played with our coach before, somebody who this franchise has already tried to pursue before. So there's a little bit of history there. So, we can see what it turns out, what it ends up being. And I think I may have misspoke earlier. I think I said that he played for us. He didn't play for us. He played for our coach. So correction there, but you guys now know what I mean before you get to typing at me. You got your keyboard warriors always coming at me for misspeaking sometimes. But yeah, so he's had history with the franchise and the fact that he's had negotiations with us before, has played for our coach before. The last couple of seasons, the last season with the Browns, he played 3 games. So that's not much. The season before that with the Browns, he played 13 games, and then he played 16, 15 games. He's missed some games over the course of his career. Again, not anything amazing. The stats don't pop out at you, but he is a talented linebacker that could come in and play a role, maybe even end up being a depth piece for the Chicago Bears. Let me know what you guys think on that one down below. I already think I know how you guys are going to go on that one. All right, let's get into the last thing today. I want to talk about Wisconsin defensive lineman Keeanu Benton. Now, this is a guy who could very well be in the Bears range. Not expected. He's looking at going about 138th in the draft. So this is definitely a day 2, it may be round 2, round 3 prospect, maybe even lower than that, depending on how things go. But he's a 6'4", 315-pound interior defensive lineman that can also, do some other things. And as the Bears are looking to improve that defensive line, we already know Will Anderson, Jalen Carter, those are the names that you guys that we've talked about so frequently around here. But this is another guy that you can get later in the draft that you can look at as being a prospect. Things with him, great pop. He is one of the strongest players in this draft, especially at that. He's great at the run, at stopping the run. And that's some things that the Bears need help with, is stopping that run. He's great with the hand moves, getting there, getting in penetration. The pass rush is a little bit of signs for concern from him. He's not the best in the pass rushing game, which we do need some help in those areas as well. We know that we haven't been the best at attacking the quarterback last season. So depending on what you do else on the defensive line, you want to address that pass rush, I think, a little bit there. But again, not an explosive athlete. He's a strong athlete, but not an explosive athlete. And he doesn't have very much versatility on that defensive line. So again, somebody that the Bears could take a look at, not necessarily saying he needs to be a priority for the Bears, but if the Bears get into those lower picks in the draft, especially because they have multiple of them, as they try to reshape that defensive line, they could look to bring him in as a prospect piece if Eberflus and the other coaches think that they can develop him. So let me know what you guys think on that down below. I'm trying to bring a different prospect, at least if not a list, every single day between here and the draft. And then after free agency, after we kind of know how this team is taking shape, I'll bring a more focused, probably top 10, top 15 list overall as we get closer to the NFL draft. But make sure you're following Bears Central at Chicago Bears, at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform. You can also send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, ChicagoBearsCentral@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for our Friday mailbag episodes, the number to do so, 773-242-9336. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I think I finally made it through a whole episode without calling the Bears the Bulls. And over on Bull Central, I think I made it through a full video without calling the Bulls the Bears. I believe so. Somebody will fact check me on that. But you can do that. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Chicago Bears Central. Like I like to end every video on, bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.